Okay, so we're going to take a look at importing some models into our Unity project. And before we really start placing them, these assets around our scene, we're going to look at how we get these things set up, configured correctly, and basically ready to go. So what I'm going to do is I've already imported a bunch of rocks that I want to do various things with rocks. But one of the things is right over in this area. I kind of want like a waterfall thing going on over here. Now for my scaling, to make sure things are looking decent, I'm going to go ahead and grab my player and move my player over here so that way I can kind of, oops, just moved the capsule. That's not at all what I wanted. I want to move my whole player. There we go. Let's just move our player over to here. So then I've got a, what am I trying to say? Then I've got a reference point that I can use to kind of figure out how things are looking. So let's see where I've put my player. There we go. So here's my player. All right. So with my rocks, in this folder, there's a specific rock that I kind of want to work around with. So I'm just gonna kind of start browsing through these and take a look at what I've got, see if I can find the one that I want. And these are all the original models, so ultimately these are not exactly what I want to place out in my scenes because these don't have my colliders and things like that. So I'm going to want to do some changing here. And so this is going to be the best place to start. Another thing with my models is that I don't know what the scale factor is that they were modeled with. So the rock that I'm looking for, let's see, I don't even remember which one it is. I kind of like that one. There's one in here that kind of looks like a rock from the Lion King. I think I'll use that for my cave entrance later on, but not now. No, not that one. 7, no. Oh, nice rock piles. Surely I can do something with those. Figure something out with them. Rock 5. Is it 4? Maybe it's 4. You know what? I think it's probably 4. Yeah, this is it. This is the one that I want. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take rock 4 right here. When I look at its rig, I see that no animation rig is on it. That's good. And I want to make sure that I'm not generating colliders. Okay, that's good. I'm not. So let's go ahead and pull this guy out into our scene and start playing around with him. Alright, so he's out in my scene. First thing I notice is that he is large. That's a big rock. Okay, so what that kind of tells me is that the particular scale that this thing was made on is a lot larger than this. So I'm going to drop this down to like a 0.01 scale, reapply, like so, and let's find where our rock is now. Okay, let's get this rock down. Goodness, rock. Okay, let's do it this way. Let's get our rock close to where I want it. Okay. Alright, now my rock should be like over in this corner right over here somewhere. So let's start tracking it down. There it is. There it is. Okay, let's kind of rotate this around here. You see, because what I'm pretty much wanting to do, and I'm not worried about exact placement right now, I'm just looking at my scaling, making sure that this is going to work for what I want. Go ahead and play this, and there's my rock. Yeah, I like that scaling. That's going to do what I want it to do. So I've got the scale correct, so I'm going to go ahead and work a little bit more on my rock here. And what I want to do at the moment is go ahead and take a look at its material. Now, if we have newer stuff that is actually using the PBR system, these shaders might work correctly. However, if we have older assets that we found from other sources, particularly if they have diffuse maps instead of the albedo maps, this might not actually be the material that will work best with these. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and change this over to a legacy, and I'm going to do a bumped diffuse on it for the moment. which sets this up right here. So let's go ahead and let's find this texture and see if we can find a normal map for it. So that texture is Rock 4C, so that's the color map. H is going to be a height or a bump map. Rock 4N is a normal map, and S is a specular map. So I'm going to go ahead and apply my normal map right there. I need to fix this so that so Unity knows this is a normal map instead of a regular texture. Go ahead and take a look at it now, and you can see this looks a whole lot better than it did with that standard shader. Now, there's some things that I might want to do. Let me kind of rotate this. There we go. There we go. Okay, I'm going to click over here. All right. So I could, try changing my color on this material some. Let's see. I don't really know what I'm after. Kind of goldish. Probably not what I'm after. And I can darken it up some. Now I'm basically just putting a color overlay on this. Now I'm not so worried with it exactly matching my background just yet, because I'll go back and do some new texturing back there to get more blending going on in that area as well. Okay, so now I have my rock in here, and it's been adjusted. The scale's been set and it's been adjusted, material's been adjusted. So now I'm ready to go on to the next step, which will be to set up LOD group, create my collider, and create a prefab out of this thing. So then I'm really ready to start using it, and we'll take that on in our next video. Actually, I was just getting ready to go ahead and start rendering this video, and I thought, let's look at these materials just a little bit more. So what I'm going to do, let's find this Lambert 12. Okay. Lambert 12. It's what, this one? Okay, so I'm going to make a couple of copies of this. I'm going to start off by calling this, okay, I'm just going to leave it Lambert 12 because I don't know what else to call it. But I'm going to copy this a couple times. So let's do a Control D and a Control D. So I've got two copies of it. And one of these I'm going to call this one Lam PBR. We'll play around with some physically based rendering on that. And this other one, I'll call this one Lam Spec. We'll play around with the specular on this one. Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead and get a couple more copies of this rock here. So I'm going to duplicate this rock a couple times. And I'm not even sure if this rock is a good example for this, but we'll try it anyway. What's the worst that can happen? So let's pull this over here. So we'll just put some rocks here next to each other, and let's move you, and we'll pull you over to here. There we go. Okay. Let's go local. There we go. That'll be easier. Move you back there, move you back there, and move you back there. And we'll get you a little closer. Okay, so we'll have these three different ones. Let's go ahead and name these. We'll just call this first one regular. We'll call this next one a spec. And then we'll call this last one a PBR one. So we'll take a look and see if we can get a PBR mode going on this thing. Okay. So our first one, our regular, is fine just the way it is. This is regular. We're going to leave it like that. For our spec one, we're going to go with our Lam Spec. So let's change our material. And to do that, we'll go into our mesh renderer for it. Go to where the material is right there. And I'll just pull my Lam Spec and drop it into there. And for my PBR one, go ahead and select that guy, and I'll drop Lam PBR into there. And we'll play around with these some. Now, one thing with my Lam Spec that I've got here, if I change this over to a legacy shader bumped specular, I can apply, let me see, I'm going to lock this so that we can see this a little bit better. I can apply specular highlighting to this. And what specular highlighting does is it defines a shine, a glow, a reflection, if you will. A higher, you can see how this is going right here. Now, as you look at this, though, you might have a natural question of, well, how is it deciding where to apply the shine? Is it just applying it to everything, or what? In this particular case, it is, because the way that it works, if we get rid of that, take a look at that, the way that this works is that it pulls from the alpha channel of this diffuse map to define our specular. So let's take a look at this. We'll grab this Rock 4C. Let's go up here to show it in our Explorer, and we're going to go ahead and open this thing in Photoshop. So let's open it up in Photoshop. Okay, so here we are. So this is, what did I just grab? What did I do? Okay, that's the specular. That's not what I was after. Where's this? There it is, the C, the color. Oh, now what just happened? Come on now. Rock 4C, right there it is, color. Okay, so I'm going to right click that one. That's the one I was after. And let's open that in Photoshop. Okay, so here's our texture map for that. And right over here, this is the actual specular map that was generated. That is a separate file. However, Unity wants that specular information to be in the alpha channel. So if I look at this texture right here, if I go over here to channels, you see I just have a red, green, blue. I don't have an alpha channel. So what I'm going to do, come over here to my rock. I'm going to do a Control A, Control C to copy this specular thing. Come back over to my diffuse one. Let's add a channel in here, and it's automatically going to be an alpha channel. I'll paste this onto there, and maybe I'll play around with my brightness contrast on this a little bit, just to maybe brighten up some areas. You know, maybe something like that. 92 might be a little too bright. You know, maybe something like that. Let's try that. We'll hit OK on that. Go ahead and make sure all my channels are on visible. And now we're going to save this. So I'll go File, Save As. And I'm going to not overwrite my original color file. So I'm going to save this as DS for diffuse specular. And save that right there. Make sure it's 32 bits per pixel. Basically, this is allowing 8 bits per channel. We have 4 channels. 4 times 8 is going to be our 32. So we'll save that out and go back into Unity, and we should have a DS right there. Okay, so let's pull this DS and let's replace our regular diffuse. Now notice when I did that, see, like, we're looking right along here, right? See how that changed. And that's because it is now pulling the specular information from that alpha channel I just created. So if I pull this back, see how I'm getting more shine up here. And if I pull this up, I'm getting tighter shine. It might be easier to see this if I give myself a completely different color on that, different color that I'm reflecting, so you can kind of see our reflections throughout there. Now, maybe I want to go with a soft, watery kind of color. I don't know. I don't even know if that's watery. Something like that. To try to give it like this blue hue, like there's water there or something. So we've got our specular added to that. That helps some. Let's see. Which rock am I messing with? Yeah, I'm messing with the speck. Okay, good. So you can see there's a difference between this one and this one. You can see, like, right here, this white line here. The white line's there as well, but we have a reflection. We have a gloss coming off of that right here. It's more pronounced. You can also see more pronounced along these ridges here as well. And if I crank this up, I get it softer. I'm a little bit closer to that, but I've still got this reflection highlighting going on. It's a really subtle thing, but it can make a difference. So let's go to our middle rock here, which is going to be our PBR rock, and let's see what we can do to that one. So I'll select PBR. Okay, so I got my PBR rock. Go ahead and lock my inspector again so that I can get rid of my grids. And this time, let's change from Legacy Shaders Bump Diffuse. Let's go with a standard specular setup. and let's start playing around with this. So now we're in our PBR system, so we're putting our albedo right up here. Our specular, we can grab our Rock 4 specular right here, and we can drop it up there into the specular. However, notice that for the source of the specular, it either wants to come from the alpha channel of the specular map or the alpha channel of the albedo map. It won't just look at this right here. Now you might say, well, that's silly. Why? Specular ultimately is a black and white. White where it's going to be reflecting or glossy, and black where it's not. So if you're only doing white, black, grayscale data, you only need one channel. So it makes a lot more sense texture memory wise to store that kind of information in an alpha channel instead of just having a complete map for it, a complete separate texture. So let's see, I'll go ahead and turn that off. So our albedo, where it's currently pulling it from the albedo alpha, well, this is the original one that does not have any specular information in the alpha channel. So let's add our DS right here, make that our new albedo. And there you can see what we've got going on with that. We can start changing some stuff here. Notice we still have this gray thing going on. So now we'll go ahead and put our Rock 4 spec map back into here. So that way that works as a kind of a color overlay. Even though our source of the specular information was coming from there, this becomes, like I said, a color overlay for the specular stuff. So, let's see. Let's maybe go down that way. Let's go up this way. So as I go up higher, you see how we're getting more gloss, shine, reflection in those areas. And as I go down lower, you can see how it gets smudged out more. So you can kind of pick an area you might like. If we had an emission map, we could throw it in right here where we're going to get some light coming out. If we had extra maps, we could go ahead and add things here. So we do have a height map. Let's see what would happen if we throw that height map out here onto that and take a look at what we have going on here. Now what we're doing here is essentially parallax mapping, where we are offsetting some textures using the height map data to offset it. If I really raise this, you can see how this is really getting blurry fuzzy right in there. Come down here. So we're basically, this slider is defining how far are we offsetting from that. And it becomes entirely up to you as to whether or not you even want that or not. But it's, if we can get that set up nice, we can get some really nice further depth definition going on with our rock right here. Let's see, I want my specular, move my specular up a little bit higher. Alright, so there we go. So we've got 3 different rocks, and they look fairly different. Let me get rid of the height map. Let's go ahead and get rid of the offsetting right there. Now which one looks the best is really kind of subjective and up to you. Personally, I prefer this one over here. With this one, while we're doing this PBR system and everything, that is true. The albedo map that we have is truly a diffuse map and is not the best for creating the albedo channel. However, as a diffuse, a legacy shader, it comes out a little bit better. So personally, I like this rock over here, but we have those to choose from as well. So that's a quick introduction to bringing our models into our Unity project and then working with the materials to fix them. This is a fairly important thing because our texture artists will probably create the textures outside. They might even create materials in Quixel or Substance or something like that. But as the level designer, environment builder, we're still going to have to modify, tweak things within the game engine because the game engine may not look the exact same as whatever environment it is that the material texture artists were working within. Perfect World, material texture artists are working within the game engine as well. In Perfect World, we, the level designer, environment creators, are going to have to do some work on this stuff. So I've got my rock ready, and next up we'll go ahead and build some LODs for this thing and colliders and move on from there.